I'm the only obstacle standing in between you and an evening of drinking, so I apologize in advance. Not only that, but I have the audacity to come up here and not even explain to you the secrets of the universe, but retread old ground and talk about networking and brand building and how to make friends, influence people, and amass a network that you can be proud of, but ideally minus the ick factor. So for a lot of you, maybe this might be preaching to the choir a little bit, but humor me, and more importantly, I plan on spending the last 15 to 20 minutes or so of this workshopping practical responses to questions that people have or issues that they've run into when trying to build a network, leverage that network, et cetera. So that's where you can come in handy, because I plan on not being the only person talking, no matter how much I like the sound of my own voice. So I thought it might be good to start thinking a little bit about why, not everybody, but why people are generally uncomfortable with networking, why they either don't do it as much as they should, generally are maybe slightly grossed out by it, or all in all, don't reach for it with the same enthusiasm that they do other things that they might find useful. So I thought about 3 particular responses, and I think a simple one is that some people are good at it and some people aren't. It's a thing that you either got it or you don't. You're either this guy and everybody loves you. They literally throw you up in the room when you come in because your aura is just so exhilarating, or it's too complicated. It's beyond what we can do. There are things I can work on and improve. There are things that I cannot possibly do. So we approach it with the same kind of reluctant dread that we do geometry, maybe. Or we think it's at best a necessary evil. It's for the little fingers of this world who are grubby and mercenary in the way in which they want to bring people inside and use them for their own ends. But I don't think any of that's true. I think that's nonsense. And if you still don't agree with me by the end, we can wrestle or something outside. I think networking is a teachable skill. More importantly, I think networking doesn't have to be what Littlefinger thinks it is. It isn't inherently grubby or mercenary. It is what you use it for. It is, if you think about it, just bringing together an interconnected web of people that you like and respect, who like and respect you back, so that you can collaborate, so that you can support each other, so that you can be useful to each other. And I think I might even go as far as to say that it's probably the fairest meritocracy we can build. At the end of the day, if what success means is that you, as a social creature, have amassed the largest group of people willing to vouch for you, support you, give you opportunities, I think that's pretty fair. I think unlike other skills that you might use to your advantage, this one is available to everyone. Some people might have a natural affinity for it, but literally everybody can do it. Everybody can learn, everybody can endear people to themselves, everybody can make friends. So let's think about how we do that on as large a scale as possible in as useful a fashion as possible. So I want this to be mostly practical, like I said. I want people to jump in and ask questions about roadblocks they've come across and for us to help with that. But before, there are just a few things that I've picked up that have been useful to me that maybe will also be useful to others. So I'll start first with this, and I don't think this is news to anybody, but being authentic, I think, is easier said than done, rather. I think mostly because people don't tie it to this other thing, which is know yourself. I don't think most people want to be two-faced or want to be false or superficial, but I think they're not sure who they are, what their brand is about, what they want, and ultimately what their story is. So they react in each different situation differently, and then suddenly nobody can quite put a finger on who they are or what they stand for. 3 people get together to talk about them, no one has any idea what's going on. It means then that people can't trust them. People don't know how to go out on a limb for them. People don't feel like they have a meaningful connection with them because they're getting a false narrative. So I won't just say don't be inauthentic, because I think you've heard that before. What I will say is figure out what your deal is. Who are you? What do you want? What are you about? If you can't find out for yourself, ask the people who know you best. Try to be as introspective as you can and understand, what am I looking for out of the interactions that I have? What do I want to achieve? Ultimately, what do I want from life? If all you want is a good conversation and witty banter, that's fine. If ultimately you want to be famous, if ultimately you want to be rich, whatever that is, like, be honest with yourself about it and make sure that when you react to people, when you interact with them, there is a relatively consistent thread across the line of who you are. When people get together to talk about you in a room and you're not there, they're all more or less saying the same thing. And that's the thing that you would want them to be saying about you. So it's tedious to be false. It generally makes it impossible to trust you. And also, if people can tell that you're bullshitting them, it's also kind of insulting because then it makes them feel like you think they can be tricked. Nobody likes that. Other smaller things that are useful, ask questions. And this is both on a micro and macro scale. Like in interactions, ask questions. Let people feel like you're interested in them. But in a larger sense, ask questions so you can get to know more. Use every interaction to learn more. Use every interaction to make people actually feel like you think that the interaction with them is valuable. I think this also goes in line with try to be candid, but not the radical candor minus empathy where you just generally a dick to people, but be like, that's just my thing. Like, be empathetic, be tactful, but be straight with people, be direct. There's something incredibly refreshing about knowing that you can always rely on someone to give it to you straight. That's the kind of person that you value in your network, and you want to be that person to others. It's also much easier, much less stressful if you are just loosely yourself in any interaction, much less lines to keep in your head if the things that you're saying are the things that you honestly think about situations. And also, like the Obamas, be impressed with people where it's warranted. Try to hold people in due esteem. Try to think about people as highly as you can, because that's often the best way. We think about humility as putting yourself down. So you're impressed because you're less than they are. But no, you're impressed because they're really impressive. It doesn't take away from the fact that you're also impressive. So give people due esteem, both yourself and the people you're interacting with. They might be really, really cool in a way that you're not. They might be really successful in a way that you value less. But find a way to stop for a minute and hold them in due esteem. It'll make it easier for you to interact with them. You'll be less bored by the conversation. And also you might very well find that you can be mutually valuable to each other. Okay, moving on. And I think this one gets its own slide because I think this is pretty important. This is probably the most important thing that has been useful to me in building a network, and that's just be helpful. Be helpful to people, and not necessarily in the transactional sense. I'll help them because they'll help me back. I'll do something for them because they'll return it. Be helpful because it makes you feel more karmically justified to ask for help, and not just from that person, but in general. When you've helped other people, and you run into needing help yourself, it doesn't quite feel wrong to reach out to someone. Because that is our first instinct when you want to reach out for help. You're like, ooh, do I dare? Who the fuck am I to ask for help? Why does this person owe me anything? Why should I reach out and ask them to do me a favor? But the more instances that you can remember of you going out on a limb for someone, or you going out of your way to help someone, the more justified you feel in reaching out to anybody to say, hey, I need something, do you think you can pitch in? And in a wider sense, then I think it shifts how you think about a network and how you think about networking in general. It shifts it closer to what I said at the start, which is it is supposed to be just an interconnected, loose web of people willing to support each other and willing to go out on a limb for each other. And the more that you participate in that actively, the more that you genuinely believe it. So be helpful, like our parents said, but it turns out it's also very useful for making money. And then 3 more things. So this last little guy over there looking terrified and horrified, I think that's what happens when you put yourself actively in a situation that you hate. So before you've even come up to the challenging part of going up to people and saying hi and making their acquaintance, you're already on the back foot. You're already doing something that doesn't put you at ease. And that can be anything. Like, don't go to a networking event premised on horse riding if you fucking hate horses. Don't go to a networking event premised on something that already makes you really uncomfortable or really unhappy. And this is part of the being honest with yourself. Know yourself, that's fine. And you can find things that cater to situations where you're more comfortable. Figure out the activities that you enjoy. Figure out the stuff that puts you already in a better mood, in a happier mood, more inclined to be warm and friendly with people, and go to that. You don't have to go to what everyone else is going. So if you can't learn to hate something less, just ditch it. Just skip it. There's no point going there and having an awful time and not making any friends, because then you might as well have stayed home. Be organized. Like, it's a weird thing to think about because I'm simultaneously saying this is all cool and it's natural and it comes to us as normal people. But at the same time, it requires just a little bit of organization, a little bit of thinking about it like a system and a process. If you meet 10 people and you're genuinely fired up and enthusiastic in the moment when you meet them about what you could do and what could go on and happen, and you take some cards if it's that kind of event, or you make loose promises to get in touch and then you never do, then all of that was wasted. Why did you bother at all? So figure out what works for you. For me, I know that I am not an email tomorrow sort of person. I will take all the cards and it will sit at the bottom of my bag for 2 years, and I'll find them when I go back to that handbag and be like, oh, interesting. So what I do is I literally take people's phones while I'm talking to them and I email myself from them, or vice versa. I make sure that there's already a contact or a connection right then and there, so that even if I forget about it for another 3 months, and then I'm like, oh, I think this person could be really good for this, or I think this could be really useful, there's already that connection, that interaction there. If you're a Facebook person, then do that. Add people, find some way to make sure that all of the effort that you've put in into actually building a connection with people, into actually having that spark aha moment, doesn't go to waste. And whatever that organization looks like for you, whether it's using a CRM system, whether it's just disciplining yourself to email people the day after, do it. And then finally, measure what matters for you. And that can be anything. And I think this also goes with the being honest with yourself. If what you want is just a sheer scale of network, I want as many people as literally possible out there to know me and to be willing to go out on a limb for me, then fine, measure that. How many people do you know and how many people know you? If what you want is, I want to know how the depth of my connection, I want only a few people, but I want them to really, really be willing to go out on a limb for me if I ever needed it. If I needed someone to come through, they would absolutely be there, then fine. If what you want is a certain type of connection, people more inclined to get you in this direction, people more inclined to get you into this industry, or more inclined to make you famous, or anything it is that you want, measure that. Don't sit at home wondering, was that a waste of time? How many people do I know? Or any of these questions if that's not what applies to what you actually want. And those are the things that I've brought to the table. Those are the things that have been useful for me. Those are the reasons that I'm pretty proud of the network that I've amassed at this point. But I think what will be far more valuable is if, both right now and in general, is if we start to realize that networking, like any other skill, like any other thing that we engage in as human beings, gets better and gets easier the more that every time we run into a problem, we look for a practical solution. We ask someone else, we reach out to a friend, a group, a mentor, and say, hey, this thing, I have this problem, what do you think? And like if we were learning a language or practicing the piano or whatever it was, if we managed to find practical solutions each time we had difficulty, we would just get better and better and better at this thing that is incredibly valuable for us as solo entrepreneurs, or in general as people in this new economy where it really is all about people you know. So what I was thinking we could do is, I think we have a helpful runner with a microphone, is if people had specific questions or indeed contributions about, hey, for example, I walk into a room, I don't know anybody there, I'm literally standing in the door, what the fuck now? Do I turn around and leave? What do I do? What is a practical thing that I can keep in mind as a trick or a solution to that situation? So that's an example of something that someone asked me previously that I think is a pretty good one. So if you have questions like that, it would be great. If you have more deep existential questions about who you are and what the point of being here is, we should save that a little bit for later, but yeah, shoot.
Can you just answer that one that you just said?
Okay, yeah. Yeah, totally. So I think one of the best things to do in that situation is make a beeline for the food. Make a beeline for the food or the drink. And this is not only because it gives you something to do with your hands, it's also because usually you'll find 3 other people who are there for the same reason. So you go over and then you're both tinkling over the coffee or whatever, and then you bump spoons. You're like, ha ha ha, how cute, we bump spoons. It's like the first day of college or like freshers initiation where everybody is just so needy for contact that anything will form a sufficient excuse to make friends. Whether that's just like, oh look, the blinis are pink with salmon. Ah, that's so witty or so funny, and then you start talking. So making a beeline for the food is one of those. Looking for one other person who is also standing alone in the room is another of those. And going over and just admitting the elephant is right there in the room and saying, hey, you also look lonely and confused. Hi. Or if you really want to just dive in, if you're not going to be here for a while, or you have this much gas in the tank left in terms of emotional energy, you want to get the most out of this very quickly and leave, then just go to a group and be like, I came here alone, you're my friends now. now is a literal line I've used. And the thing about it is that it's disarming. Nobody hears that and says, no, leave. Like maybe they will one day, but so far no. And then what happens is now there are 5 people. You are standing in a circle over 6 or whatever it is. Maybe 4 of them are useless. 2 of them might be interesting. You've at least six tripled, whatever the multiple of 6 is, your chances of an interesting conversation or connection. So those are 3 that I found to be especially useful.
So I have a question about networking for yourself. So oftentimes I'll go to events and I call myself an authentic connector. So I'm really good at, I get inspired by other people's ideas. And as soon as I hear them, I'm like, oh my goodness, you need to meet this person.
Yeah.
But when it comes to myself, I have a really hard time putting myself out there and asking for help.
Yeah.
So
that I definitely understand. Yeah. And that's me all over. But I think this is part of why I said the be helpful thing, and force yourself to. So I know that I said it's a natural consequence of helping other people that you'll feel more justified in asking for help yourself. But there is that little bit of this ledge you have to then leap off where you're like, just remind yourself, hey, I've done this for someone and it was useful for me. I felt good about doing it. It wasn't, I wouldn't want someone to not reach out to me because they were worried about putting themselves out there, so likewise I should do the same. So have a little speech that you give yourself every time you need something, and remind yourself. But the other thing as well is, there's a reason that you think it's that this person can help you. This actually makes sense. Usually when you reach out to someone meaningfully, there's mutual benefit there. Whether it's just that they get to be the person who introduced the person to someone else that would do great business, whatever it is, most times where there's help involved, both people benefit. If that's true, then something should also be, that should propel you to reach out. And that should also frame the way in which you ask for that help. You're not quite like, hey, you do this for me and this is what you get out of it. But I think there's a general spirit which you can imbue of, hey, this is a very easy thing for you to do. It'd be super, super great for me, and et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's those two. It's first, remind yourself of all the times you've helped people. Remind yourself that it cost you very little. In fact, it was really enjoyable for you to be in that position. And remind yourself that other people are built the same way. That like if that was valuable for you, it would be also valuable for them. And then also think about the ways in which it's beneficial for the person that you're asking to help you, and then let that frame the way in which you reach out to them. I've got a done smiley, but let me think about who is, there we go.
So when you're in a situation where you're meeting a bunch of new people, I personally sometimes find it hard to keep everyone separate and to remember individuals. I'm okay with names, I'm okay with details and stories. I'm absolutely shithouse at faces. I wonder if you have any tips for those who struggle with names. I know that's a common one as well.
So my thing is generally just to be very upfront with people about what they're dealing with and hope that there is value in interacting with me that compensates for it. So I'm pretty straight with people about the names thing. I'm like, names are just a noise that I make to get your attention. I'm probably gonna forget the noise on occasion, but what's worthwhile is I wanna interact with you anyway. So let's just both agree to be chill about that. And usually then they're like, I'm shit with names too. So it's rare that the thing that you suck at, people don't have some equivalent that means that they can give you a pass for it. But in terms of practically speaking, like I have a friend who's really, really terrible with names, so she makes it a point that everybody she saves, she takes a selfie with them or takes a picture of them and their contact has a photo. And while she's doing that, she says, by the way, this isn't just me being a creep, I am really shit with faces and I want to make sure that I remember what you look like. And the thing about that is not just that, oh, you're letting yourself off the hook with being honest, it's also yet another thing that endears you to that person. There's nothing more warming than knowing that someone is real, knowing that they're flawed, that they're complex, that they're interesting, that they're funny. All of those things tend to get wrapped up in just fessing up as bluntly as you can to the things that are failing, and also at the same time admitting that there's a workaround. So you're like, I'm shit at this, but I'm not just being like, that's your problem. It's like, I'm shit at this, and here's the way in which I'm dealing with it, and it's kind of cute, and I'm great, now we're friends.
I'm terrified of the microphone. So I have a big mouth and I'm a people pleaser. So I suffer this social panic sometimes where I'm like, oh, I come to the table and I speak my truth, but then later I walk away and I'm like, oh shit, now people hate me because I said something impulsive or I was very, I guess, aggressive with an opinion.
Yeah. Okay, well, That's fair. I have a big mouth, but literally physically, I should show you the cartoon that they drew of me. Where is it? It's just like a giant face. With the mouth is like half of it. So I can sympathize. But in terms of the figurative version of the big mouth, honestly, I think if you're really, really concerned, then get feedback. Like I have like a circle of people that I know that I genuinely trust. And I'll be like, hey, was that like dickish, or was that like okay? Because I'm candid and I'm pretty filter free. But so one is the feedback is both people you already know, and even just in general, if you talk to someone going up afterwards, be like, I thought that was a pretty fair thing to say for X and Y reason, but was that okay, or let me know. And the more you do that, the more you'll build your own framework for assessing, so you won't even have to do that as much. But honestly, I think there's also a huge amount of trusting your gut. I think the thing about being an empathetic person is that you can be like, would I have found that horrible, or would I have found a way to justify that? If you can justify something to yourself, usually you can also justify it to someone else. So if you bring all of those together as one framework, you think about things, the things that you say, you're not just saying them because you're like, I'm filter free, but there's a reason that you did, and there's a reason you thought it was okay. And asking for feedback, both from people who know you really well, if they're available, if they're also there to witness it, and just from people in general, whether that's the people who are listening in or the people who are directly speaking to, and get a sense of knowing for sure, and then be willing to call yourself out. Sometimes you're like, that was funny, that got 6 laughs, and then you go up afterwards and they were like, no, that was really shitty. And just accept it when it was, and apologize as needed, and find a way to back that up. And maybe the next time you do, you say it anyway, but you're like, and also, you know, here's why I did, and I'm sorry if that was too far, or whatever that is. But I wouldn't try to police yourself, like preemptively. I wouldn't try to instead like err on the side of like shutting down, not saying things when you think them. I would just find a way to communicate honestly as you're doing, but in a way that also takes into account people's feelings. And I think feedback is the best way possible to figure out that framework. I think that's probably, how are we doing? Is that everyone?
I see one in the back.
Oh, there we go, in the back. This is such good cardio for you. You're welcome.
Thanks. Hi, Daisy. I might be in a minority here, but I am an extrovert. I don't have problems approaching people. That's always been something that's fun to me. And my goal it has been to amass a large network when you were talking about how you want to really weigh yourself. But the question I have for you is, have you ever had to break up with somebody in your network for whatever reason? Because a lot of times, and especially with our community, friendships and business kind of overlap. And I've had a few experiences, and I've heard other colleagues that have experiences where, you know, I thought somebody was reaching out to me to be my friend, and then they're selling me a coaching package. And I'm like, that's not cool. Or you see something on their page that it doesn't align with your values, or for some reason down the road, something changes. But with that same goal of having a big network, I don't want to, you know, Irish exit out of the relationship or take them off my LinkedIn. What do you do when you find somebody like that? Or do you just kind of be silent?
That's pretty interesting. I think it's fair to be honest with yourself about. So the way that I think about it a lot, and I was talking to someone about this recently. I was like, look, it's not a massive prize to be friends with me. It's not a fucking gold medal. So if I'm like not letting you do it, I haven't taken anything away from you. But I have a right to only have people around me that add to me somehow. Even if that's just that I see them once every 3 years and they make me laugh, that's fine, that's something. There should be a net positive that I'm getting from interacting with you. And if that's no longer true, or if now there's some massive hygiene factor, some negative that takes it away and ruins it, then fine. Like I don't owe it to you to be friends with you or to have you in my space or in my circles. And I think that in terms of the how you want to go about removing someone or breaking up or whatever it is, I think that's entirely up to you. And I also think it depends on the reason why. So there's sometimes people do something and I think it's terrible. And I also feel like I have to be heard, and then it'll be an active, direct, hey, I think you were shitty for X and Y reason. Or I don't feel like I have to be heard, but I want it to be a learning opportunity. I think it's valuable that they should know. I owe them that much at least. Hey, I think this is why you were shitty. I don't want to deal with it, but you should know that this is a thing. But mostly, I think the Irish exit is totally fine. I think if you think about it as people should be around each other and in each other's worlds as long as it's mutually valuable, the second that becomes less true or not true anymore, then it should organically sort itself out. Like, I also don't hold it against myself when I find that I haven't, like I run into someone and realize, oh, it's been 4 years and we haven't had any interaction whatsoever. And I used to be like, oh no, how do I hang on to all these people? And I'm like, if there was something there, if it would happen, if there was a reason that I felt connected to you, then it would happen. There'd be some excuse for us to talk to each other, reach out to each other. I'd remember something and realize I should connect you with someone else. If that hasn't happened in 4 years, then it's not supposed to happen, or whatever amount of time it is. So I think an Irish goodbye gets a lot of slack. We shouldn't, by the way. We're great people, Irish. But I think it's a pretty fair response. I think it worked. Let your network kind of evolve organically as it should, and don't hold it against yourself if you think that someone's no longer adding value to you. That happens all the time, and no harm, no foul. Horses for courses. There's literally someone out there for everyone. There's some of the network that they do well in. That's fine. It's just not your bag anymore. Sweet. I think that might be everyone. Cool. Thanks, guys. I hope that was helpful.